Move to Doug. Picture of Doug is what we want.
Oh, that's it.
That's the song. So we're really excited to have Doug speak to us today. Doug has been a long-term member of this community and is vice president of our board. He's also part of our spiritual musical team. And my experience of Doug is that he's a very genuine, heartfelt, kind and loving person who has deep commitment to truth. And I'm really excited to hear what he has to say today. Even more special, and Doug wanted me to make sure we emphasize this, is that for him today, it's a real honor to have his daughter Abby here and to sing with him, and that of all the roles that he takes on, being a father is the most important to him. So Doug and Abby.
It'll just take me a minute or two to get set up here, all right? All right. So as Janice mentioned, this is my lovely daughter Abby. Today I get to be the proud papa, and we're going to sing a song together. This is the first time that we've actually had a chance to sing together in this way. So this is the world debut.
This is recording, right?
And I just want to make sure, is my guitar channel on? Channel 8? There we go. So Abby and I are going to sing a song called Unwritten. And it's basically about the promise of the future. Here we go.
I'm just beginning the
Staring at the blank page before you, open up the dirty window, let the sun illuminate the words that you could never reaching. It's lonely in the distance, so close you can almost taste it. Release your inner visions, feel the rain on your skin. No one else can feel it for you, only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips. Drench yourself in words unspoken, live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins, the rest is still unwritten. Thank you. Wow, well that was cool. That was amazing. But I learned that I can't actually look at Abby and think while I'm playing guitar. I completely forget about what I'm doing. All right, so thanks, Abby. You want to have a seat there, my love? And I'm going to continue on. I guess this leads right into the talk, doesn't it? How about that? No time for snacks in between. All right, so it's Father's Day, and that's a big day for me, personally. And I think in our society in general, it's a big day too. I think that the role of a father is changing. It used to be that the father was the disciplinarian and probably not that present in the household, and more of a force to be reckoned with is my thoughts on what a father used to be. And now I think fathers have taken on a much more nurturing and supportive role, and they seem to be more interested in really what's happening in their children's lives. So I'm glad to see that we've turned that corner, and that there's a new era ushering in. Now, I thought I'd start with a little quote from Will Rogers. And what he said is, I don't think that women really understand just how big a deal it is for a man to have a baby. And there may just be some truth in that. Just in the sense, I know it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's a huge thing. Now, there was one other quote actually that I wanted to make sure that I work into the talk. So maybe I'll do this right away so that I don't move past it and forget to do it. And this one is from Barack Obama, who's pretty much on the opposite end of the scale from Will Rogers. And he says that over the course of my life, I've been an attorney, I've been a professor, I've been a state senator, I've been a U.S. senator, and I am currently serving as President of the United States. But I can say without hesitation that the most challenging, the most fulfilling, most important job I will have during my time on this earth is to be Sasha and Malea's dad. And I think that states how I feel too. Now, I'm not the president, but whatever else I have going on in my life is very, very secondary in relation to my relationship with Abby and my concern for her well-being and my sense of pride in the amazing young lady that she's become. Now, I'm going to have a couple of songs in my talk. And the first song is actually inspired by something that Abby did spontaneously when she was a very small child. And I think that it illustrates just how powerful innocence is. And that we all are born with that. We all have that power. Some years ago, Abby was a toddler, and we were at a home show. And it was getting towards the end of the day. She was quite tired. We had a little stroller, put her in, and she was at that stage where she was just ready to just fall asleep, just close her eyes and conk out as young children do. But she was also at that stage where she was just getting a little bit cranky. So I was walking a fine line and trying to keep her occupied till she falls asleep. And we ended up, we're walking down these long red carpet aisles at this home show. And I'm pushing the little stroller for her. And she didn't want to get in the stroller. She wanted to walk beside the stroller, and that was okay. We'd walk along, and every once in a while she would see something, and she'd drift off, and she'd look at it, and then she'd come back, and then we'd walk a few more steps. And as we're walking along, we passed a bench, and on this bench was a family was sitting there, but it was an older family. It was like the father and mother and grown children, and probably some grandchildren running around somewhere, but it was the older set that was sitting on the bench. And we're walking along, and then Abby starts drifting off again. And I didn't think much of it, but she kind of kept going, and she got into their space. And they kind of looked up at me to make sure, like, who's this little child wandering around? Was there someone watching her? And they saw that I was right there. And Abby walked up, and she walked directly up to the old gentleman that was there, who was sitting on the bench. And she walked up to him, and she kind of crawled up on his lap. And she kind of put her arms around him and fell asleep. And it was magical. You could just see the glow come from everybody there. It was just the most amazing thing. And then about 45 seconds later, she opened her eyes again, and she got down, and she came over and grabbed a hold of the stroller, and off we went. And I thought, that event will stay in those people's minds and hearts forever. And there was like, Abby never made eye contact with them. It was just a complete expression of innocence. And when I got home that evening, I was actually sitting by candlelight. I was thinking about that, how powerful that was, how amazing that was. And the candlelight was kind of flickering around the room. It reminded me a little bit of being at a campfire. And I started to think about, when you're staring into the embers of a campfire, how that takes your thoughts along. So I wrote a song called So Powerful, and it's about Abby. Still has the capo on. All right. That's better. Can you imagine letting go of every burden you have carried? boundless love for everyone. Can you imagine letting go of every burden you have ever known, and standing free upon this living world? Innocent and so powerful, that inner voice is echoing from the corners of my mind. Comes wisdom profound, gentle children, please appreciate the heartfelt love that you have found. Can you imagine letting go of every burden you have ever known, and standing free upon this living world? Innocent and so powerful, innocent and so powerful. The song's about Abby, and I think about all of us actually, in that sense that we all have that innocence within us. In fact, what I thought I might do, just to get into the full spirit of things, is just to read the little blurb that I wrote up, because it's pretty good. Come and celebrate Father's Day. Share the joy and the honor of parenthood. Let's explore the many faces of the child-parent dynamic. Whether you're currently raising your children, remembering bygone days of children close at hand, or nurturing your own inner child, you have survived to smile another day. And all too often we rush past the simple beauty of the trees while in search of the forest. On rare occasion, we have the chance to slow down and to honor the treasure of unconditional love tenderly reflected in an infant's eyes. We all carry that love within, for we have all been the infant. The laughter of children is the music of the soul in its purest form. And some say that you can hear that music echoing in all words of kindness, wherever they are spoken. And what is an echo after all? But our own reflection. So I just wanted to ease into that a bit. Think about that. We all come into this world completely innocent, completely open. And that what we experience in life becomes part of how we experience the rest of our life. It creates a dynamic. There's a cause and effect loop. One of my good friends, Bob Elwood, recently told me that By the time you're in your 30s, about 95% of what you're doing is just subconscious patterns running. It's kind of like you're on the bus and the bus is going somewhere and you're really not present of where you are. You're on autopilot. And being part of the Unity community, I've had the chance to take some courses and to gain some understanding in how to know when you're on autopilot, how to notice what those triggers are, what are the things that set you off in those patterns where you just go into default. And I thought I'd take the opportunity with Father's Day to use it as a chance to nurture and to heal. Because I think that's the strength that fathers are bringing more into the world now. So I wanted to relay a story of something that happened to me when I was a young child, which definitely set me on a certain path of the way I looked at the world, the way I looked at myself. And it's only quite recently, really, that I've had the opportunity, had the guidance of good friends to get past that and to start to discover who I really am. Now, when I was about 6 years old, now if you can picture me as a 6-year-old child, I was a little 6-year-old. And kind of bright and polite and well-behaved. You know, I wasn't a troublemaker or rambunctious little kid. I was a little, they used to call me the little man. So one day, at 6 years old, I went out to play with some of my friends. And as is the case, quite often you have a friend and he's got an older brother or two. So it ended up that we were playing, myself and my little buddy at 6, and his older brothers came over. Now his older brothers weren't a lot older, 2 or 3, maybe 4 years older, but a whole different mentality. We ended up in this little playground, and there's a big pile of dirt. There was some form of construction going on. We were playing with our cars, making little roads. And then all of a sudden, just kind of out of the blue, the older brothers came over and they were escorting 2 little girls that lived down the street. And they were younger than me, right? They would be about 4 or 5. And they kind of went around the other side of the dirt pile, so I knew they were there. And just like in any playground situation with lots of kids, there's kids all over the place playing different games and you're just engrossed in what you're doing. So I didn't really pay much attention to it. And then I remember hearing one of the little girls crying a bit, and it wasn't an emergency cry, it wasn't an alarm, but it just, you know, as kids do, sometimes they cry and whine a bit. And then shortly after that, the older brothers led the 2 little girls away back to their house. Had virtually no significance to me. I went home, and I don't know if it was the same day or the following day or however it was, but the next thing that I recall is sitting in my living room, and my parents were very, very upset with me, which was unusual because I tended not, like I tried to avoid getting in trouble. And they were saying that these little girls had been injured, and that the father of the little girl had taken her, the 2 little girls, they were little twin girls actually, and brought them around from a distance and asked them to point to everyone that was at the playground. And of course they pointed at me because I was definitely there, but I certainly wasn't part of whatever took place there. So when my parents asked me what I had done, I said I didn't do anything, and of course they said I was lying, and the whole thing escalated quite a bit. The next thing I remember was being a terrified little child, sitting in my bedroom, waiting for my father to come and give me the strap. And I just remember the intensity of that. would only stop punishing me if I said I wouldn't do anything like that ever again. Which of course I freak out, I won't, I stop, that sort of thing. But I didn't know what I'd done. I had no idea what I'd done. And what I realized afterwards is that through the rest of my life, I had carried with me that sense of being bad, of having done something I shouldn't have done, of not being truthful. And I also, as I started to think as I grew about the experience of those two little girls, that I should have helped them. I should have found some way to help them. And as I grew older, I think that just became more and more a pattern of how I looked at the world, how I saw my role in the world. I saw myself as someone that was dishonest. I saw myself as someone that didn't help people that needed help. And through some of the programs that we've had at Unity, I started to realize that I was a 6-year-old child. A 6-year-old child doesn't have the capacity to do any of those things. And I was innocent. It wasn't like I, accidentally burned down a house and would carry some real responsibility for that. It's like, I actually literally did not do anything. So, the next song that I have relates to that, to the idea of healing, of using the strength and the wisdom and the capacities that you have as an adult to think back to times when you were a child. And if you could speak to that child, what would you say? How would you help that child to deal with whatever that situation was? And further to that, your inner dialogue as you continue on in your life. What would you say to yourself whenever you have periods of self-doubt, self-incrimination, and you start to think that it's time to get back in touch with that inner innocence that we're all born with, that promise that everybody has when they're born into this world. So this song is called Angel's Face. Fading memories from a time long past, lightless skies above pure blue. Before the lashing rain and the thunder came, a time of innocence, unguarded trust, playground gleaming in the sun. Before the lashing rain and the thunder came, what would you say if you could reach back in time? What would you whisper to soothe a frightened child? Just forgive, just let go. Don't be burdened by the things
Just take a look into the mirror and see the beauty in the angel's face reflected there. What will you say to yourself in times of doubt? What will you whisper to ease your troubled heart? Just forgive, just let go. Don't be burdened by the things you can't control. Just take a look into the mirror and see the beauty in the angel's face reflecting there. Just forgive, just let go. Don't be burdened by the things you can't control. Just take a look into the mirror and see the beauty in the angel's face reflecting there.
All right, so I hope everybody found some healing in that. And then before I turn things back over to Janice, I thought I'd try to end on a lighter note. The little gems that come from parenthood. Again, one time when Abby was a young child, we were driving along and she was sitting in the passenger seat beside me. So I think it must have been just when she was old enough to use a booster seat. And so now she could see out the window and she could see where we were going. She wasn't in the back anymore. And I'd been in a habit of reading bedtime stories to her, and we were introducing new words. And there was a story that had something about an astronaut in it. And it was kind of a big, clumsy word for a young child. So we read that word over several times. And it became an interesting word for her at that particular period of time. And we were driving along, and we were going to get something to eat. And what she had done is she had confused and meshed the two words restaurant and astronaut together. And so we're driving along, and she looks up at me with this sweet little face, and she says, "Dad, are we going to the restaurant?" And it just warmed my heart. It was it was one of those little moments you think, remember this. This was the coolest thing. So that's what I'm going to leave everybody with, is a trip to the restaurant. Thank you.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful.
ourselves to feel that message of blessing. And as we breathe deeply into how blessed we truly are, we allow ourselves to fully open We open our hearts, we open our minds, we open our very beings. Every cell in our body is blessed. And as we breathe deeply, acknowledging that in every cell of our body, there is a sacred code that says the property of God. Every strand of DNA, every cell, owned and stamped, beloved, precious child, you are one with me. And as we open ourselves to receive the truth of this blessing, our hearts, our minds are healed, our bodies are healed. We are invigorated with a new sense of pure love, pure peace, and pure joy. And within each of us is this divine ability to nurture and to care for ourselves on every level. And as you breathe, just notice any places that need your love, your attention, and just call in this divine power that exists within you. Opening yourself to be healed in those areas where you may have doubt, fear, feelings of unworthiness, feelings of being bad, feelings of confusion, not trusting your own self. And just as a caring father and mother would hold you dearly, reassuring you of how precious, innocent, and worthy you truly are, offer that to yourselves. I am precious. I am innocent. I am worthy. I am loved. Breathe deeply into the expansion that occurs. going to hear from the band, special musical number. No, it's good.
Who's that? I think it's me.
Thanks, Dad Chickadee.
So, if you've been here other years of Father's Day, we've done this song before. This is a song called Lead Me, and it's written from a father's perspective, but it kind of applies to anybody who's ever been in a position where they got to the point in their lives where you realize that you cannot do this on your own, and it's time to allow something greater into your life to give you guidance. Well, this one's called Lead Me. Somebody, maybe it's Doug's mic. Maybe we tweak his mic.
Oh, we did.
Probably.
It's okay. Doug, you're fine.
Just turn your mic off.
Stand back from the line.
Mouth the words, Doug. Mouth the words.